They look like a hospital. CEOs.
Good evening. This is the Athens City Shade Tree Commission meeting for October 10th, 2019. Under Title 33, I don't know if, Ron, you've got any follow-up on 66 Elmwood and 76 Elmwood. I think there was a dead tree, I believe, that was confirmed.
Yeah, I took a look. I took a walk on the entire Elmwood area with Larry McCosker, and we spent a little bit of time at both of those sites. Definitely a dead tree and deadwood pruning. On the other two, I believe, there were two
pin ups further down.
Yeah, so I think we'll do some pruning on those and remove. We also identified a number of planting sites near East State, so on the western side of Elmwood, like the whole entry could probably be planted.
Okay, good. I think we also noted that there's a tree that's died on 6 Shannon as well.
I have that, yep.
You've added to your list.
Yes, sir.
Under Title 37, we received this plan for Oblenis just before our last meeting. I've had a chance to have a look at it, and there are a number of issues with it. And after I've spoken, I'm going to ask David Riggs, who's our new code director, to provide any additional comments he thinks we should know about. The first thing I did was check the area, and the area is in fact quite a bit bigger than the area that they're claiming. I think it's about 200,000 square feet, which means it should need 113 large shade trees. They are planting 6 along the frontage and 52 in the rest of the site, making 58. They claim there are 14 existing trees that are there, and so that means that they need to plant another 41. I think it's possible to do it, but we could really do with talking directly with their architect or a representative of them, because they've got a number of places where the trees are more than 30 feet apart, so they can clearly pack. Yes, these trees along the eastern side of the property. Those are more than 30 feet apart, as are, I think, some of the trees coming down the rest of the side. Also, the parking lot is big and open.
They could have some in there for sure.
I would really like to see some trees planted in that parking lot.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
So those are my initial comments. I don't think we should try and make a decision at this meeting. I think we should just put it off. And if we need to call a special meeting, I'll do that. If they need to have us make a decision before our next meeting, which would be in November. So, David, can I invite you to
yes, sir.
Pass any comments and to welcome you to the Shade Tree Commission?
Oh, I'm glad to be here. Thank you very much. I did look at these plans. Their numbers on the plans are not exactly accurate. I think there's 58 trees shown on the plan. I'm not enough of an expert to know whether those are acceptable species or not for you guys.
The ones that they've listed are acceptable as large shade trees.
Although
yes.
one is not native.
Yes, we like native, but we don't preclude the foreigners, fortunately.
So I knew that it was important for the at least the contractor or the developer to come. So I left him an email, as well as EHM&T, which is the engineering firm that created those plans. I didn't hear anything back from them. So hopefully we can get some information to them, and they'll be available for our next meeting.
Yeah, and as I say, if we need to have a meeting before then, because obviously this can delay them.
Let's get their timeline and then determine whether or not we need to have a meeting, a special session.
Yeah. Has anyone else got any questions on this particular plan?
I like the species choice. It's a little bit different than our red maples that are popping up everywhere. And they're taking advantage of the floodplain with the willows, hackberries, sugar maple.
From what I remember, they're continuing a theme that is down there of using the Acer sacrum, the sugar maple.
I'm not sure I've ever seen a hackberry.
Oh, we have hackberries in town.
I have a really big hackberry. On my property, I have a hackberry.
Where is it?
It's at 4 West Stimson.
Okay,
So
I'll take a look.
if you pull in the parking lot, it's to the right.
Okay. Is it big? Is it grown?
Oh yeah, it's very
Yeah.
Concert under the elms is really concert under the hackberries.
Yeah. Okay, we're having too much fun here. Ron, can we have your report, please?
Well, you took my thunder with introducing David Riggs.
Oh.
Introducing David Riggs, our new code director. So I invited him tonight just to meet everyone, and so you have a face to go with our code enforcement office now. So David joins us from Mason, Ohio,
22 years.
22 years, and you were the
Service director, public works director.
so.
Great.
Glad to be here.
I'm thinking Arbor Day celebration would probably be the, I think it's the 15th of November, if I have my calendar correctly. And I was wondering to know if, it would be, I'm planning November 15th as the Arbor Day, and that would probably be a dedication of the tree bench, the art bench on West State Street, going towards Armitage. So 3 trees we're going to plant there, and we're also going to do a significant tree planting on West Union between Smith and Depot, where the bioretention area is. So there's a lot of tree planting spots there, so we're going to do a significant planting there. I don't know which one I like for Arbor Day better yet, but one of those 2 sites will be Arbor Day.
Yeah, you'd mentioned the West Union Street site previously.
Yeah.
So where's the first one you mentioned on West Street?
So it's towards on the new bike path extension going towards Armitage Road, towards Little Fish.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's a new art bench there.
Yeah.
So Mason has the trees. We're going to plant some swamp white oak. I think they're 2.5-inch caliber, so they're significantly sized trees. So more to follow on Arbor Day. Fall tree planting. Like I mentioned, I had a walking tour at Lorraine, McCosker, and there's quite a few spots that are available on Elmwood near East State Street. I'd also like to include the West Union Street planting and the Arbor Day. There's some Court Street trees that need replaced. So probably looking at about 25 to 30 trees. The city wouldn't be buying all of those. A number of those, especially the West Union Street ones, are donation trees from Attila Horvath. So he donated a significant number of trees to the West Union Street Cemetery last year, and they're doing pretty well. Tree inventory.
Before you go on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Tree guards. Is it possible to have a tree guard on the trees that are going on Court Street? Have we thought any more about how we could get those made and installed?
I haven't thought about it lately. It's something that I'm not opposed to. We can revisit that.
Yeah, I think we should.
Yeah, and
What are they?
it seems to be the same locations that are the trouble spots.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So tree guards might be the answer. So even if we don't purchase tree guards for every uptown tree, maybe those
Yeah.
certain trees that are outside of places that people frequent in the evening.
The tree guards, for those
Survive.
who don't know, are they tend to be a vertical steel structure that protects the tree against being pulled or damaged by.
I've seen the ones they have for
people.
animals, but not for humans.
They're decorative too, so they look nice.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah, you can get like wrought iron ones, and they look nice.
Colors, you mean? Or what?
No,
You can do colors, but typically they're just steel.
They're just black.
They actually they're black, and they might weather a little bit, and they get like a rustic look to them.
Yeah.
They're sharp.
Yeah.
They're not cheap.
No,
And
sure.
if we can get a local person to manufacture them, that would be one way of doing it. The other way is to see if we can get any from another city that has got some
Yeah.
surplus.
What do they cost per tree guard, Ron, approximately?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I have old numbers, and a nice
They're
wrought
not-
iron tree guard was significant, $1,500.
Yeah, I mean,
1,500, okay.
they are not cheap. But if it's a case of not having to replace a tree 2 or 3 times before
Right.
it can survive, it's worth doing.
I'll revisit it. I'll
Yeah.
see if I can get some numbers.
Well, one of the problems is that what I see are limbs being broken off. And that's, the tree guards, maybe it extends out
Well-
enough.
Maybe we should
that they can't
electrify it.
step on it. What?
Maybe we should electrify it.
We've had it both ways, Lee. We've had that problem, of course, but we've also had them snapped at the base.
Right.
You what?
Snapped off at the base, just completely snapped.
Oh, right, right.
Yeah, the thing about a tree guard is you're really encouraged to buy a tree that's got some height on it to start with. So the trees themselves tend to be a bit more expensive to start with.
So do these guards then unbolt at some point? Are they
Yeah,
like
you
a
can
clamshell?
remove them.
So
Yeah.
a lot of them they're circular on the actual guard itself that's in the ground, and as the tree grows, you can torch or remove sections of the actual pit itself to allow for the tree to get larger, and then once it gets to a certain point in width, you remove the guard.
And use it somewhere else.
Yes.
Yeah.
Reuse.
Yes, you can reuse them. Yeah.
Yeah, so essentially it's just a big upfront cost, but it's a
Right.
cost that you shouldn't have to do again for a long
Right.
time.
They'll last. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm working with a couple students, 3 students actually, from a high university in Lorraine McCosser's urban planning course, I believe, to do a tree inventory of the North Congress area, Pine Street, Ring Street, Mound, and South Lancaster, so that loop. So essentially this is continuing the work that she had students do a couple years ago in the Near East Side neighborhood. So hopefully we keep expanding that project and get a relatively accurate tree inventory
Good.
at a low cost, because tree inventories aren't cheap. So it's a good experience for them, and it's good end product for us. I got the portal open for the Tree City USA application, so I'll be working that through for our 30th consecutive Tree City USA. That's exciting. And my most exciting news is we got our Athens in Bloom report back, and we did really well.
All right.
We increased our score 2 points out of the 10 scale. That's pretty good. So from a 6 to an 8 out of 10. So it was pretty inspiring, and it really helped justify the amount of work that folks put in. So everyone who was involved, thank you. And if you would like to see the report, I can share it with the group. Okay.
Yeah, and I thought it was really good that we had the Athens in Bloom, and if we could start that earlier next
Yeah.
year, get more people on board.
Yeah.
So we were scored highly on that. They really enjoyed the Athens in Bloom thing. That was definitely noticeable and a good takeaway.
Well, when the director of American Bloom came to Master Gardener, she remarked on some of the things that were outstanding.
Congratulations to you.
And thank you for all your work.
Well, you were the leader of the pack. You good job.
You can't do great things without great people around you, so thank you.
But I do think one thing we do need to come up with is a sort of a calendar of events, echoing some of the things that Lee was saying there, that we need to start early, we need to know exactly what we're going to do at different stages, because it's fine that we have things ready in July, but you've really got to be thinking in May what it is you've got to do to get to that stage.
And to echo that point, David, we are continuing our meetings today, now, through the end of the year and early next year. And we've also expanded our committee a little bit to include key people that we want to have on board. So yeah, I agree 100% that
Because if we can come up
action items need
with
to
some
happen.
sort of calendar of things, then what I'd like to do is include a regular event in the year sometime where we do some pruning and lifting
That's a good idea.
of some of the trees.
That's a great idea, because so just on that little walking tour with Lorraine, I saw a lot of trees on Elmwood that could benefit quite a bit
Yes.
from some thinning and lifting.
Yeah. Yes.
Did you have anything to add, David?
Nope.
I have something to ask about the tree canopy thing. There are 3 trees. Well, let me tell you where it is. It's on the bike path, and it's between the. It's in the part that goes out from the library, the bike path.
So between Lincoln and the library, in the bike path, that spot,
Well, here's.
connector road from the bike path, the connector path from the bike path to Lincoln to the library.
Wait a minute. It's
No. Okay.
it's right before you get to the underpass.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And it seems to be a boneyard for trees. They're always dying there, and there are 3 more that are dead again. So I don't know whether you want to invest in it, or maybe there's a tree that we need to think about putting there then instead of the ones that we put.
Are
We made the wrong
those
species.
fairly young trees that were part of the wastewater treatment plant project? Are they fairly small trees, or are these big?
They're not real young, not real old. No, they're young. They're young trees.
I wonder if there's some of those wastewater treatment plant trees that are dying.
I'm sorry.
So we put a bunch of trees on a bike path between the overpass and the wastewater treatment plant when we did the wastewater treatment plant project.
Not the water treatment, the other way toward the library.
Yes. Yeah. So that bend.
On the
Yes.
library side of the
Okay, I'll take a look.
Overpass.
and do you mean trees that are close to the bike path?
Right
on there?
beside the bike path.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
There's a number of trees that have been damaged, and I can't remember actually seeing any that are dead there, but there may well be,
3 dead ones.
because we've had a number of trees that have been very stressed in the last 6 weeks or so that have completely dropped their leaves, and so we need to be careful about whether they really.
Maybe they could have a comeback. Huh?
They yes.
It's been dry. Yeah.
That's one way.
They look pretty bad.
Plants avoiding desiccation is to lose their leaves. So that's
Yeah, I know that, but these
more
have-
standard in desert plants but that's why.
But these have
I'll
been-
check the
these have
limbs
been-
and
wow.
see if they're brittle.
It's not-
You know, if they're not brittle, we'll leave them alone and see what they do in the spring.
And speaking of trees that are doing well or not doing well, the planting on Columbus Road with those trees, those have really exceeded my expectation. It's just been miraculous. But there are several there that have not had leaves for quite a while. So like a year or so, maybe those could be renewed.
Yeah, so I credit the people that planted those trees with the success of those trees. So I think that's a big deal, a big part of it. So we were lucky enough to have Mason Chambers from Five Springs Farm plant those, and he takes care of them for a couple years after they're planted. And I really think that's a reason, the big reason they're doing so well.
I know a couple were replaced a few years ago.
Yeah.
And now the ones that are existing are getting big enough, I would think you wouldn't have to replace 1 or 2 that are not going to make it.
Yep. I don't have anything else.
Okay. Are there any other questions for Ron?
Just, can we talk after about the printing stuff?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would like to ask about the missing trees on developed property. Have we got an inventory of that? For instance, Don Wood seems to have not planted many trees on that piece of property. Where do we stand with not only trees that haven't been planted that were on their plans, but also trees that are banked by developers?
We have not yet received a final plan from Don Wood. This was never received. The only documentation we've got is in the minutes that they were proposing that when they submitted a plan to us, it would involve them, I believe, banking 100 trees. They would do this either by paying the city to plant trees for them, or they would designate a site with the agreement of Ron to plant the additional trees somewhere else in the city, perhaps along East State Street. But that one has definitely fallen through the cracks, and I'm going to throw it straight back to David Riggs, because it's really a code enforcement issue that we've got, and I know that the project is more tangled up than just trees.
Mm-hmm. Also, I could speak to Menards as well, John. So they have broken ground, and they're moving right along with that project. And they were allowed to bank trees as well, if my memory serves correctly.
It depends on what. Again, we gave them provisional approval based on what they proposed, but until we see the final thing, we can't be sure whether they're going to bank trees or not, because they said they couldn't plant trees in certain parts of the developed area, and I think we accepted that, and we gave them permission to bank some trees for there. But then they may have removed far more of the existing trees than they'd originally said they were going to do, and so
we'll
we
have
need to make
check
sure that
we'll have to do a compare contrast with the site plan and the actual. So. And
then the other one that I think the Procos Hotel is now open. It looks as if it is. It seems to be cars outside. They appear to have done all the hardscape that's required to plant the trees, and so the clock has now started on them planting the trees. They need to plant them either this fall or next spring.
So let me take some time to bring David up to speed with how we're managing this stuff. So
you'll love this.
It's definitely different, So yeah.
Well, one of the reasons I bring it up is that you were talking about planting some trees, and it sounded like you had somebody donating trees and things, but we also have a tree bank where we could just go to the tree, basically, I don't know if we've banked money per tree or something or whatever, but we ought to have the resources to plant an awful lot of trees.
And in the spring, one of our meeting minutes has a list of all the trees that have been banked up to date, and some of them you should have been paid for those, or they should have been banked already.
Yeah, I'll have to check and see what the fund line is.
Yeah.
Other questions for Ron or for David? Okay. I don't think we have any other business unless some of our guests would like to. Did you have a comment you wanted to make? I think you said you might have something to say, or have you learned enough in the process?
Yeah, so for the...
If you want to speak, could you go to the podium and just introduce yourself, and then...
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Is there a microphone?
Because they have a microphone over there.
There are millions of people watching.
The nation's at the same stuff. All right. Oh, hi, my name's Kennedy Raspberry. I'm a journalism student, and I'm covering this meeting right now. So I guess my question is for the Oblinus plan. So did the hospital itself come up with this plan? Did they, what do they want to install? That's my first question.
We don't really know what they're doing. All we see on the title here is that it says it's a medical office building.
Okay.
The situation is that whenever somebody tries to do a large development in the city, they have to come forward with a landscape plan under what's known as Title 37. And what we then do is look at the plan that they proposed and literally count the trees. Mm-hmm. And if they don't plant enough large shade trees, though, that means trees that at maturity, I believe, are over 45 feet. So these really are large trees, because we are the Shade Tree Commission and we're trying to get more shade into the city. And there was a comprehensive plan developed almost 20 years ago where one objective for the city was to get its tree coverage to 40%. At the time we were at 27%, and I don't think anybody's measured it since, but what that 40% did was lead us to modify the Title 37 so that when these trees are mature, they will cover 40% of the development. Unfortunately, most developments take a lot less time to be replaced than it takes a tree to get to maturity. And so in many cases, the trees are not mature when they decide they're going to redevelop the site.
All right. So right now you said they claim they have 58, but they would need 130.
What they came with a plan that has 14 existing trees, 58 trees that they think they should have to plant, but I think they have to plant a total of 113.
Okay.
So there's 41 trees that I think they're short of at the end of the day. But what we typically have to do is sit down with a representative of the developer and work out exactly what it is they can do.
And what was it they base their figures on?
Yeah.
And why did they come up with that number when it's so obviously different from ours?
Right.
So they base their number on the impermeable surface calculation and not the entire site.
Yes, I think that's what it is, but I'm not going to go into the details of why they did the number that they did.
That makes sense.
Anyway.
So is there like a deadline that they have?
No, they can't proceed with their development until they get approval.
Okay.
The Title 37 approval has to occur before something known as Title 41 kicks in, which is a string of steps in the development that is overseen by David Riggs as co-director, which consists of various entities having to approve the plans going forward. It's just that for some reason they decided that, or the City Council decided that the Tree Commission would go before Title 41 approval rather than part of it. So we tend to be a roadblock in the way of people starting things. It's not what I like to do. I want to see people do a good development that brings jobs to Athens and tax revenue, but at the same time we see the trees that we think we should have planted.
So would they be responsible for planting the trees? It wouldn't be it wouldn't be the city of Athens. Nope. Okay.
They're responsible for planting and maintaining the trees, and if trees die, they have to replace them. Okay.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming and listening to us. Okay. Is there any other business that people want to raise? If not, we have the minutes of the last meeting.
So I'll move that we accept the minutes as presented.
I'll second that.
Thank you, John. Any comments on the minutes? That dead tree at 131 Mill Street, did you inform the owner of it needs to be replaced?
It's been replaced. Yes.
Okay, good. Any other questions on the minutes? If not, are there any objections to approving the minutes of the last meeting? Hearing none, we have minutes for the last meeting. Our next meeting will be November 14th at 7 p.m. in the council chamber. With that, we are adjourned. Thank you.